Hi, welcome back to another Webinar Wednesdays with Powertec. My name is Tom, one of the Solutions Managers here at Powertec, and today we're going to be talking about weather station solutions. So, weather station solutions generally focus around, you guessed it, weather. That's exactly right. So, why are people wanting to know their weather? So, typically here at Powertec, we're usually operating in a B2B sort of space, or business to consumer is our other branch that we do. Typically in the business to business space, our weather is usually important for our agriculture, and in Australia we've got one of the biggest and most varied agricultural sectors that you'll find in the whole world. Looking at your local weather, due to our vastness, I suppose, our local weather can vary a lot. Somebody down the road might get rain, whereas you know, a kilometre up the road, you might not get anything. And this can really change the yields that we're getting off of our crops, the quality of our soil, how much water is going downstream. We can look at this from an environmental perspective as well. You know, scientifically wanting to know where it is, how much rainfall that we get in a certain area, what the light levels are doing, how often frost affects this area. So there's a lot of different instruments in the weather game. You only need to watch your Channel 9 news to figure that one out. We typically deal with a base weather station, and this base weather station, it has a temperature, humidity, a solar input, a rainfall indicator, wind speed and direction, as well as a few other different metrics, but primarily in my experience and with the clients that I've typically dealt with in the past, we're looking at correlations between rainfall and growth rates, or sunlight exposure and growth rates, early frost detection for damage mitigation, or in a few different occurrences, looking at flash flood detecting and similar sort of early disaster warning signs. Once you start to collate the data coming from weather, you can then start to see trends and patterns. And this is probably the most important thing. And I believe I've spoken about it a bit previously, where data on its own is not necessarily that powerful, but data, when we start to correlate it with different events or triggers, overlay it with two seemingly unrelated sets of data, then we start to identify markers and triggers. So a basic example of this might be, I'm a agriculturalist. I've started to notice that if it falls below, sort of 0 degrees during the night, I don't want my irrigation system to switch on, because that's going to, in the morning, that'll wet all my plants, and at that 0 degrees temperature, we're going to see a frost come through, and that will frostbite all of my fruit, for example. Other basic indications there, again, like the flood detection stuff, that's by looking up, like having a weather station upstream and being able to see what's going on. We've called these systems, and we primarily deal in a local, we call it a local data collection system, and that's because for a lot of people, they're operating on quite large blocks of land, particularly down New South Wales where we've got broadacre. They have very different conditions affect each one of their paddocks. So they might have paddock A got a real good bit of rain, whereas paddock B is actually suffering from a bit more of a dry, that rain or missed it. So being able to identify how much water has come through and where we actually want to allocate our resources. So as I mentioned, here at Powertec, we've got both a localized weather station variant as well as separate modules that we can sort of split out depending on what it is that you're really looking at. This unit, again, all in one system, going to pull all these details in, feed it through to a primary dashboard where you can start to collate the data. And then with the idea that being after a few years worth of data, you can then start to correlate trends. You might notice when you have a dieback, when weeds start to come in, by collating the data, we're able to look for indicators, for triggers, and then better learn this. And then feeding back into the whole M2M and IoT automation conversation, ideally this data after we have some algorithms, some AI that's able to run over the top of it, we stop having to do the hard work of actually investigating. People smarter than myself will go through and identify a key trigger in a certain area, and then this gets input into an algorithm so that we can begin to have systems give us suggestions as to the best watering times, when we should be putting fertilizer down, whole bunch of different things. I hope you've enjoyed today's content. Please keep watching, and if there's any new topics or things that you'd like us to investigate or do a little conversational piece on, let us know in the comments below and we'll get onto that. Thanks guys, have a great day, bye.